Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you what, we got another absolutely fantastic show coming your way today. Got a returning guest that been on a couple of times and always bring a wealth of knowledge to the show to enhance us on a lot of things that's going on and ways that we can do and deal with certain things. So I'm excited to have this young man on the show today. Uh, Dr. Michael Mantell is not here with us today. I think he kind of fell ill a little bit, but we got another doctor that's going to fill in for him. That's Dr. Durr. And she is a child psychiatrist, and so she knows a lot of things. And so, but we can't even start the show without the executive producer blessing the show and introducing everybody. So, how you doing today, Dr. Michelle?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. Best wishes to Dr. Mantell, speedy recovery. We are happy to have Dr. Balnay Durr to substitute as the guest co-host. So welcome. And again, we're excited to have this returning guest on the show. And you're right, he has a wealth of knowledge and he kind of breaks down the topic at hand so the audiences can engage and really understand and educate themselves on just the certain topics, but I won't give them away now until it's time to introduce the show.
Well, I tell you what, how you doing, Dr. Durr?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me as a guest co-host today. I'm excited to be here with you both.
We're excited to have you, and primarily how we do things, especially on 360 degrees of health. Um, I ask the first couple of questions, and then I pay attention to the private chat because we start giving cues on what's up. So but it's going to be just fine. Hey, Michelle, can you please tell our viewers and our listeners the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely fantastic returning guest?
Yes, well, the title of today's show is 360-degree Health, making the best of your situation no matter what it is. And we're having a sit-down discussion with George Pitagorsky. He's an author, entrepreneur, learning development designer, consultant, coach, and technology executive. We're going to talk about acceptance, the platform for optimal living. What does acceptance really mean? What is letting go and how do you do it? George Pitagorsky's work is to enable people to eliminate unnecessary stress and attain optimal wellness, relationships, and performance. His approach is practical and adaptable. He brings over 50 years of study and practice of yoga, mindfulness, meditation, Buddhist, and non-dual psychology applied in daily life as an entrepreneur, learning development designer, consulting coach, technology executive, spouse, parent, and grandparent. He offers individual team and relationship coaching, consulting, and speaking services. He has authored 5 books, articles, and workshops on mindfully managing projects, performance, work-life balance, relationships, conflict, and expectations. His latest book, The Peaceful Warrior's Path, Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living, was published in October 2023, is a guidebook for applying concepts, tools, techniques, and exercises to sustain optimal wellness. So please welcome back to the show, Mr. George Pitagorsky.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, doing well. For everyone else is.
Yeah. So before we go off in it, I just want to play this little short clip so people can really see who you are. Wow. Hey, George, can you tell our viewers and our listeners, just in case they didn't catch you on the last show, a little bit about you, what makes you drive, what keeps your drive, and why you're so passionate about what you do?
Well, what else is there to do besides passionately finding a way to serve? And that's kind of what I think that I do in expressing the ideas and the concepts and experience that I have to make it easier for other people to not only live, but to live well, to really accept where they're at and make the best of it, as the theme of this is. So that, is kind of what stimulates me to do this. But when I listen to my introduction, all of these things that are listed there, it's taken me 83 years to come up with that, 82 years to come up with that list. But it seems like when you look at it, it's like, who could do all of that stuff? And so I'm just blessed with this experience of all of these varied elements in life.
So George, you came up with the title, Making the Best of Your Situation No Matter What It Is. Can you tell our viewers and listeners why you chose that topic and what you mean by that?
Well, I chose the topic because I think it gets down to the essence of how people can operate in the world with the least amount of unnecessary stress. So the more we can accept the fact that whatever is occurring, our current situation, whatever it is, you can't deny it. If you try to push it away or, do something around it, you're just going to make it more and more stressful. So if you can accept, then you have the opportunity to decide more clearly what to do going forward. So it's this notion of make the best of your current situation, accept it, and then it's not saying you can't influence the future.
So, I know once. So how you doing there today?
So how am I doing? I'm doing well.
Great. So, this is our first time having the opportunity to connect with each other. And I know, to be honest with you, and I tell people, even I struggle with acceptance. But I think one of the things that creates the difficulty for people with acceptance is sometimes people think acceptance means approval, that, what this is okay. It's expected, it should be happening. So I thought it would be good if we start off just kind of defining what acceptance really means. And then, of course, how, if we don't accept something, how it actually keeps us caught and struggling with the difficulty that we're having.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good pursuit. So when I talk about acceptance, it's it's something that is logically an imperative, because basically whatever is occurring is occurring. There's no way to well, there are plenty of ways to obscure it, but basically it is what it is. So the more one can see that and accept that this is the way it is, then they're in a better position to operate in their life, to do whatever skillful things that they need to do.
So if we use something kind of concrete, like say that you have a leak, your sink is leaking, right?
Easy one.
What does that mean in terms of acceptance? How does that work?
Okay, so the first thing is that you see that your pipes are leaking. You got this leak, and it's manifested itself by water seeping out onto your floor. So one possibility is to freak out, just which is the sign of not accepting what's happening. So accepting what's happening now is, oh, we have water leaking out of the pipes. And now I have the presence of mind of saying, okay, I have a goal in mind, which is to stop the leak as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm now in a better position to see, okay, how can I do that? So it's about using this idea of acceptance as a platform for a better capability of moving forward.
So then if we accept that the pipes are leaking, then I think we can shift to focusing on solutions, right? Work the problem, find the solution,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm not happy that water's all over my floor. I'm not happy that something got damaged because of the water, but this is what's happening, and so what can I do to resolve it?
Exactly. So that puts us in this position. Now there are other times when events have other examples. For example, other examples might be relationship issues. So someone's in a relationship, and most relationships are rather complex. So we now have a series of events that are taking place, and good things, bad things, and all of that. Accepting the nature of that relationship on a deeper level than just cognitive, accepting it for what it is, now also provides a way forward, but at the same time reduces the stress of trying to avoid or somehow correct the current situation.
So again, can you kind of give us maybe a kind of concrete example of what you mean?
Well, hold that thought. We got to take a station break, but we come back and you're going to give us that example because this is very interesting. So I tell you what, whichever platform that you're watching us on, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform, go to the comments, ask any questions that you might have. I promise you will get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, I'm just listening to the question that Dr. Derwent asked, and watching these philosophical answers that was coming from George, and I just getting caught up in the moment. So I want to continue, but Valen, I want you to continue with those questions because I'm sitting back, I'm learning.
Well,
Okay, great.
I think when we
I'm hoping that the
left
audience
off,
is learning something very practical also.
I think where we left off was a
Mhm.
concrete example. Yeah.
As it relates to relationships.
As relates to relationships. So let's take a relationship between a boss and an employee, and it could be any kind of organization. But let's say Anna is an abusive boss, and Jim, who is her subordinate, they're both fairly high up in management circles and all of that. Jim is really suffering, so he's the one that we're using as the subject of this with regard to acceptance. So by accepting his feelings, by basically being not driven by his emotional reaction to the abuse, he's in a position to kind of let the abuse go through, accept it for what it is, and then put himself in a position to see whether or not he wants to continue in that circumstance. So if he chooses to continue, then he has options that that he can use to moderate the situation or what have you. But he's accepting the fact that he's got choice. Now,
Right. So in that instance, having the choices, this is what this is. And, what actions do I need to take to address this abusive situation, right?
Exactly.
Do I need to have a conversation directly with my boss? Do I need to go to HR? Do I want to stay in this position? Do I want to stay with this company? Do I want to, again, leave and go do something entirely different?
Right. Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, we can add to that the acceptance of the fact that sometimes a person feels like really, I say, without options. Let's say that this guy Jim is working in his circumstance, and his ability to get another job, at least in his perception, is like really small. He feels that he needs to have the job, and it creates a certain degree of fear when that is present, and it's driven by fear. So now, if the person can get into the acceptance of their own fear-related or whatever the other emotions are, if that person can be accepting of those sensations that we often try to push away and avoid, now that acceptance leads to the ability to be much more proactive.
Actually, that brings me actually to the next question. How does acceptance help us find hidden opportunities and also gratitude and sources of gratitude?
Yeah. So acceptance puts us more and more in the present moment. It's basically, in order to be accepting, one has to see what's going on in the current circumstances. There has to be a quality of mindfulness present. And as that mindfulness kind of becomes the natural way that a person is moving through their life, they're consciously aware of what's happening. Now, it tends to, my experience is that the more that one relaxes into that kind of situation, the more gratitude becomes a natural end product of that. It's basically seeing how things are and seeing the miracle that surrounds us, as long as we don't block it off by all of our neurotic tendencies of clinging. So now we have this capacity to be grateful for what we have, grateful for that situation. We can that gratitude is kind of fuel for being compassionate and wanting to share it with other people.
So the way. the way I look at that is two things. One, I tell people the Chinese character for crisis is actually a combination of the character, danger, and opportunity.
Right.
So when we have these difficult experiences, there's always an opportunity, even in the difficulty or the adversity, right? And then another way, even if it doesn't feel good, right? Not something I would have wished for. If I can look, the opportunity is, how is this helping me grow or develop additional tools to put in my toolkit that's going to benefit me down the road, and maybe even at a time that I won't even know that I'll need those tools.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It starts, everything becomes an opportunity. You know, everything is now an opportunity to do exactly what you're saying, to become better at living and accepting things as they are.
Yeah. So Joe,
I'm sorry, JC, go ahead.
George, so we're talking about acceptance, and we're talking about a lot of other different things as relate to individuals. How can someone identify specific goals that they can set to improve their situation, even in a small way?
Well, I tend to be a fan of meditation, mindfulness meditation in particular. So that being said, I also, there's not just one thing, but where does one start? So if one, generally speaking, one seeks starting because they realize that they're in pain in some way. They're suffering in some way. It could be relatively minor, or it could be whatever it is, but that's why people seek, self-help and change. So now, given that, you have the ability to make an intention to become more mindfully aware of what's happening, so that you can be less and less resistant to it. And through that, you can reduce your stress. So an objective is to learn to simply be present and take the time and effort. It doesn't have to be huge. Take the time and effort to retrain your mind.
So it's refocusing on certain things, and that means that we will have to, many of us would have to step out of our comfort zone and give it a shot. So, but how can a person also identify new skills or knowledge to better cope with or improve their current situation?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Basically, there are situations where we have to accept the fact that it's the way it is. There's a quality of wanting to avoid things that are painful, and that's kind of natural. Who wants to? Maybe there are some people that don't mind being in pain, but most of us are averse to it. But now, when it's there, when we're suffering in some way, the opportunity aspect of it is that it gives us an opportunity to center and feel a deeper level of presence that allows us to observe what's happening even within ourselves. It's kind of hard to put words to it, and that's why meditation, the practice of being able to learn to be present and observant.
So what if, because there are times where we're like, but I don't want to go through this. Why is this happening to me? Right?
Yeah. How is that? How helpful is that?
This stinks. Right? So how does one go from that kind of thinking to the practice of acceptance and doing what you're saying that we're all capable of doing?
Okay, so the way that one does it is to recognize first that you've already identified a program. the program that you identified was this response to, what happens in this. So this happens. Why did it happen to me? That whole sequence of questions and desires for knowing what caused it, that becomes obsessive, takes us away from actually dealing with the situation at hand. So retraining, seeing that kind of sequence of thoughts, that mindset that's being played out, is something that you can observe, and then you can say to yourself, well, why do I want to keep thinking that way?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is not happening in a this is happening moment to moment. Yeah, it starts with a dialogue, but ultimately it's that thought train starts, and you recognize it more quickly because you've practiced some degree of mindfulness and presence, capability. So you're now able to see that train of thought and be more consciously aware of how much you want to fuel it. It's there, you have to accept the fact that it's there, but how much extra effort are you putting in to keep it going? And can you stop?
It also is awareness is a key component of acceptance. And what I find frequently is that many people are disconnected from themselves, from what they think, how they feel, and why they're doing something, and that they're creating the results in their own life.
Yes.
So what's a way to help them connect to themselves and reconnect to themselves when they disconnect, and so that they have this greater level of awareness to be able to do, again, what you're suggesting doing in terms of the awareness in that process? I mean, acceptance in that process.
I think that one thing I want to say is that I think we have to accept the fact that there are people at various stages in their personal development that are not able at that moment to have awareness, to have self-awareness. They're stuck so deeply in their particular subset of how the world works. So now you have a lot of other people who are kind of ready, because there's discomfort. There's a discomfort there. They feel that they're not living in an optimal way. Wellness isn't full. There's a dissatisfaction. Yeah. So if a person finds themselves in that kind of circumstance, and after probably trying 16 different ways of getting out of it by taking this pill or eating this, this sugary thing, or like becoming a vegetarian, or whatever it is that they're using.
Going shopping,
exactly. So there's a recognition of that, and then boom, okay, do I want to keep doing that, or do I want to find something that's a little bit more basic, that's underneath it all? And that basic thing that we're finding is the ability to be aware enough to accept what's happening.
Wow. We're going to take a station break. We're going to take a station break. Well, this is a very interesting topic. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to continue this great conversation. So whichever platform that you're watching us on, if you want to be part of the conversation, just go to the comments, ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
keeps us close when we're apart. Walking from the darkness of all that we've been through. It seems that there might be a way to leave behind the loneliness we've known and live again life of need.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you, we're sitting there here talking about a lot of different things on how to accept certain things in your life and change, refocus on the negative, and being able to let things go, especially if you have no control over them. And a lot of time we hold on to things, and there's nothing we can do. I'm the type that when you done did everything in your power, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. You got to move forward. And you just have to be able to accept certain things. And that's what George is talking about. And that's what Dr. Durr is talking about. So George, I know you kind of answered this question a little bit, but why is it important to ask yourself, what aspects of my life or current situation am I struggling with, and just having a hard time in accepting it, and why do I feel that way?
Why do I fear that? So first, what possesses a person, I think, to start to explore that is their discomfort. So they come to the to the situation with a desire to find some way of operating, and I think that if I understand the question properly, the more they start to experiment with different ways of finding how they can better live in their life. So if they're open to some people don't, in that circumstance, will try to do avoidance techniques. They become addicted to something and what have you. But when that doesn't work, or hopefully before it even gets tried, there's a recognition that one can look internally and resolve a lot of the issues that are creating the current suffering. So there's this motivation based on some degree of knowledge that there's a way available. It's a method.
I always say, that your current situation might not be going your way today, or whatever that might be, and it's just a temporary thing. My saying is your current situation is not your final destination. That means that we have to sit back and refocus. We have to be true to ourselves.
Yes.
And many times we have to reach out for support.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I mean, I believe that, but then I find that it comes down to another level. It's this image of jumping into a raging river, and you have certain capacity to swim or to guide yourself, but with the complete knowledge that you could be swept away. So that the idea that you are trying to achieve something is great. It's something that you can then use to skillfully find a way to do it if it's possible. But before the fear goes away, there has to be another level of acceptance, and that's the acceptance of uncertainty, the acceptance of change, and through that change in our complex world, there's uncertainty. So a lot of people are not accepting of that, and as a result of not being accepting of the uncertainty, are less able to actually achieve what it is that they would like to achieve. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I encourage people to think of it like this when it comes to change, which is if you take a breath in, that's a change. When you breathe out, that's a change. So change is happening in every moment, whether we recognize it or not. And also the difficulty with avoidance is the fact that, if you think of it like, money, whatever you owe, by avoiding dealing with it, now you're getting interest and penalties on top of the principal, right?
Yeah.
Or the simple way I say it is think of it like the ostrich that sticks their head in the sand. The problem with that is you leave your rear end exposed.
Right, and you're going to get eaten.
So it's then now you put yourself in a vulnerable position, right? So it's important, like you said, to kind of we got to deal with it because the consequences of not, they keep piling up on us. And so one of those things I want to get into. So how does acceptance impact our mental health?
Well, it depends on. I think on the basic level, not getting into any kind. You're a psychiatrist, so without getting into the neural level, just on a surface level, acceptance makes it possible for me to be less driven by my emotions and other forces. So theoretically, one could use a positive mindset and breathing exercises and other modalities to treat something like depression. So if someone is depressed, they can take antidepressant drugs and or use meditation techniques, yoga, breathing, running around the block, any number of different more holistic methods to accomplish their purpose. So it's having that kind of that sensibility of how to apply, whatever your technique is.
So one of the things I've heard you say, and of course it's really been great, and I think very helpful what you've been saying throughout the show. But one of the things I kind of hear underneath what you're saying is it's a part of mindfulness is if we can stop judging ourselves and what's happening, right? That positions us to accept ourselves and what's happening and not cause ourselves to be stuck. Because if I'm saying it's terrible, it's awful, and I'm catastrophizing, why is this happening to me, etc., then that's one of those resistances of that gets in the way of acceptance.
Exactly. It's actually feeding into the non-acceptance by dwelling on it and feeding it in that way. So now the bad news, the good news is that people can do this. This is an accessible thing to be able to do. It's not otherworldly in any way. So, but it requires a significant amount of internal effort and intention. On the surface, you can calm yourself down with meditation techniques or drugs or whatever it is. But once you start realizing that you want to clear out some of the negative habits that you have, to change the way that you're reacting in the world. So in order to do that, you're breaking habits. Did you ever break a habit? Not the easiest. Not the easiest thing in the world. It's very
absolutely. Yeah. I tell people, to me, a word that I actually prefer over habits is practice, right? So what am I practicing? And is what I'm practicing helping me or, getting in the way, which I also think in terms of then the next thing to think about is then how does acceptance help us focus on what we can control versus what we can't control?
Well, I think it starts with, it starts by one, knowing what is there. So I'm mindful of the circumstances. Then I start bringing in, some skill, each of us has a set of skills, our experience, our knowledge base. So we look at what's present and we have a sense of where we would like whatever is present to be moving towards, and we want to influence that. So depending on our skill set, we can do more or less of one thing or another. To just make it more concrete. If I wanted to start a business, I can go in many different directions, but I need to ultimately choose.
Hold it though. We got to take another station break, and we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up. And if you want to be part of the conversation, whichever platform that you're watching us on, all you have to do is go to the comments, ask any questions that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Dr. James, JC, Cooley, the James Cooley Show. It's your life.
Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it, to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z, and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and tell you, George is putting it down, and Dr. Durr is asking some phenomenal questions, and we all are learning from this. And the key takeaway is acceptance, and being able to let go. So why sit back and worry about things again that you have no control over? Or if you're not doing something right, you might want to refocus. You might want to look at things in a different way, and that's how we learn, and that's how we get better. So I think that's so important that we do that. So, hey, George, let's change it just a little bit. What is the impact of acceptance on mental health? Can highlights, mental health. A lot of people want to push back on that. And like, I ain't got the problem. The problem is not mine.
Well, denial is, what do they say? It's not just a river in Egypt. It's, basically, until there's some degree of recognition that there's something wrong, it's very difficult to have any real influence on mental health. I think, again, I'm not a professional in that field, but just my observation as a teacher and as a person who studied psychology in different forms, my sense is that if a person is completely in denial, doesn't have any sense of being able to step back and see themselves, that it's difficult to work with them, because breaking through requires them to have some kind of an epiphany. So that being said, then there's people who are more lucid than that, who have a sense of the capacity to make change, and they need help, because making that change is a lot of effort. We were talking about before. It takes breaking a habit, and the kind of habit that it requires to be broken is the habit of self-identification. It's like people get, I think a large part of the mental health issue is that a person's identity is kind of skewed in a way that allows them to be overly affected by external and internal phenomena that's taking place. In other words, their feelings come up and they can't deal with them. But they know that that's happening, and they know that there's a sense of difficulty that it's creating in their life. So they become motivated to change. Will they have the wherewithal to keep up the change? Becomes an interesting question. It takes a lot. Just using addiction as a radical example, but we're addicted to whatever it is that we are, and during the course of breaking the addiction, we're confronted with a lot of different opportunities to cop out, to jump back into the illusion that, whether it's drugs or mental, different kinds of mental health issues. So acceptance is the beginning of that. I accept the fact that I'm, neurotic, psychotic, probably not psychotic, but I recognize and accept that that's the case. Now, again, as we said before, what can I do about it? If I can't do anything about it, then, wrap me up in one of those straitjackets and, put me someplace comfortable. I think you're muted.
I can't hear you, Bella. Let's see. Bella, you kind of muted, or you're having problems with your mic. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, George?
I can hear you. Yes. And you can hear me?
Yes. Hey, George. Okay, so to Bella, get that right. Tell us about your book, your latest book that you just.
My latest book is really about accepting and letting go, as you might guess by the conversation. It's called The Peaceful Warrior's Path, and its subtitle is Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living. And it's a guidebook. It's basically a way of putting together conceptual and physical techniques to give a person the ability to pick and choose a way that will enable them to become more accepting of their situation, more self-aware, and through that be able to optimize their wellness on all its levels. Wellness is not just about physical health. It also includes emotional health and relationships and financial health and all of that. So that combination of wellness becomes the book is about how to accomplish that kind of wellness. And it takes it down to this level of letting go and accepting as the baseline. And then it offers questions and exercises that one can do for themselves to increase their self-awareness and to better enable themselves to kind of operate more effectively in the world.
Where can they pick up your book if they wanted to?
My book is available through Amazon and through just about every other purveyor of books, both in the ebook form and also paperback. So I would direct people to Amazon.com, George Pitagorsky, The Peaceful Warrior's Path, and we'll find it there. We can post perhaps a link. I don't know how that becomes possible, but if you go to Amazon and look for that book and that title, it will be there, along with other books that we have.
So if people want to reach out to you, how could they get in touch with you? They enlist your services, etc.
My website is www.self-awareliving.com. And my email is George, George, at self-awareliving.com.
So we're down to the last minute of the show. You got one quick question as relate to what we are talking about in your book. What roles does acceptance play in long-term goals and aspiration? How can it help you stay resilient in the face of setbacks? So we got about a minute and a half to go.
I think that, for one thing, that the constant recognition that one has to be really on top of it. If let's say that I set long-term goals, but also I'm setting benchmarks along the way that are shorter-term objectives that need to be accomplished in the context of meeting my goal. So the more one can understand the short-term actions and how they're affecting the long-term plan, the better able they are to accomplish the long-term plan. Now, they also have to have a sense that everywhere along the way, there's another opportunity to reassess the long-term plan, to make sure that one has got a long-term plan that's still worth achieving, a long-term goal. So there's that part of the process is keep doing what you need to be doing to accomplish the goal. Periodically pop out and say, do I really want to do this? And then when you have that kind of concept, you're reinforcing, I want to do this. It becomes much easier to now break through the barriers that you come in contact with.
Wow.
George. So can I just add this little bit? Again, I just think what you're saying is wonderful, because what it says, it just acknowledges the truth of that we have challenges as well as we have times where things are working well. So the way I think of it for myself and say to other people's is every setback is a prelude to a comeback.
Yes, exactly.
And we've got to end with that right there because we're out of time. But George, I want to thank you for coming back on and bringing this wealth of knowledge to us and our viewers and our listeners. And, thank you so much, my friend, Dr. Bout. Thank you for filling in Dr. Mike. I'm sure he's watching the show, at least I hope. And, I got to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time live. And I got to leave you with this. I want you to always dream big, think big, and be big at everything that you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's your life, and we'll see you then.